Well, for me, getting into irrigation, really, I wasn't looking to get into irrigation. I was going to do landscaping because growing up, my father was an arborist and did landscaping. And as a kid, my brother and I would help him work. And so when I first got out of the Marine Corps, I continued doing aviation for a government contractor for a couple of years, or I think it was about 6 more years. And coming out of the, especially the Marine Corps, the aviation community, it was totally different than doing civilian, especially not trying to bash the Army, but, Army aviation. They're a whole different group of people. And so I did it for 6 years, and again, I think a lot of it wasn't so much being, Army side of things. I think it was just being civilian. There's, the pride and everything isn't there because it's still more of kind of a job.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It paid good, had great benefits, everything like that. But it just wasn't there. And that's where I started deciding that, hey, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to use my GI benefits. Never really thought about it. I went and talked to the VA, and then I went and talked to, here in Waco is TSTC. So I went and talked to them and looked at some things and found out what I could do and decided, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And I decided going around talking to a couple of different programs at TSTC, they had a landscaping program at the time, and that's what I decided to go into. And part of the landscaping program was irrigation. And once I started learning irrigation, I really enjoyed it. And I thought, this is something different. I can see your cards, but, not that clear. So I decided to do the landscaping, got into irrigation. And then as I was finishing school there with an associate's in landscape management, I started doing it. At the time, I was doing irrigation and landscaping. But the problem with landscaping is anybody can do it. It's hard to explain to some people that, hey, I have a degree in landscape management, and this is why we should use these plants. Most people look at the price when you start telling them stuff like, oh, well, this is what it's going to cost. And they go, oh, well, this guy can do almost the same thing for half that price. And he's just going to Lowe's and buying a bunch of plants, putting them in the ground, and they might live. So I kind of started pulling away from landscaping and doing more irrigation because as an irrigator, you have to have a license through the state. Not everybody has a license. There's a lot of people doing it without license, but to do it technically legally, because it's like a Class B misdemeanor, I think, to do irrigation in the state of Texas without an irrigation license. So, and that could be wrong. I know it is, a misdemeanor of some level.
Yeah.
To do irrigation without a license, but, and it costs money to maintain a license, but because of water conservation and everything else that goes along with irrigation, because, you're using potable water that's going into people's houses that they could drink and diverting it into landscape irrigation, you want to make sure that water can't be pulled back into the drinking water. So there's a whole lot of things that have to go involved. So they want you to maintain a license, just like a plumber and everybody else. So